You know it's official when you hit record. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Articulation's webinar on being a virtual speaker. Acacia Duncan, wave
Hello,
Acacia.
everyone. I'm Acacia Duncan.
And I'm Ruth Milligan, and we're so delighted that you're willing to join us today for the next hour. We will split this into two parts. Mainly, the first hour will be content, and the second hour will be Q&A. We will record both and share both back at the end if you do have to leave. But I want to start with an impression for right now of where you might be. I want you to imagine yourself as a guy, as a tourist. Be a tourist on this bus with us. And while we are your guides today, ultimately at the end of this webinar, you will be the guide. So as we navigate through asking you to raise your hand, maybe get you off the bus, use some different tools you haven't used before, we're going to take you on three main stops. And those stops are going to look like this. The first stop is going to be on engaging your audience. How do you get them to interact with you and keep your attention? The second is on how you appear in your environment and your virtual self, both what you look like and especially about your voice. And the third is about technology. We are not shy to know that you have been on webinars and Zooms for the last 8 weeks. We hopefully all of you healthy when you've arrived here. But we want to make sure that you're leveled up so the technology doesn't get in the way. And then we'll shift to a Q&A, a big Q&A. We'll have a little one in between. So Acacia, like we always like to start everything, is with a little bit of hygiene. So the first part of your guiding is knowing how to navigate the technology that we're using right now. So Acacia, what do you got?
So I am sure that you have been on Zoom nonstop since this began, but we'll take you on a little tour in case you're unfamiliar with some of the tools in Zoom webinar, especially the tools that we'll be using. So as you see on the screen here, if you look down at the bottom panel, which should be duplicated on your screen, you'll have a chat function. The chat function is a great place to comment or to say hi to people as you were already doing. That's a great strategy there. The next tool you'll see is raising the hand, which I've highlighted now. You can raise and lower your hand. If you do that, Helmut will chat with you. Helmut is our producer, and he's going to help with any technical issues you might be having or if you need urgent assistance. Raise your hand for Helmut. And then last, we have the Q&A function. This function, we really want to encourage you, if you have a question, make sure to put it in the Q&A and not the chat. The Q&A is the place we're going to really make sure that we're checking all the questions, getting to as many of them as we possibly can. And this is what it'll look like when you actually do that. So that's the end of your tour. But enough about us and enough about technology. We want to know a little bit about you. And we're going to try out this new technology. We've played a little bit with this before. It's from Poll Anywhere. And we want to know where you are right now. So the first thing I want you to do is pull out your phone. We said have your phone close. And you want to text Articulation 750 to the number 2223. Oh, my apologies. I'm going to say that again. Articulation 750 to the number 22333. When you do that, you'll get a response message that you're part of this poll. Now you're going to text 2 different words in, and we want to know, where are you physically? So type that in first. And then the second word you'll type in will be, where are you mentally? While you guys get a chance to deal with your technology, Ruth, where are you physically right now and mentally?
So I'm like beyond excited because I got to come back to my office. For those of you who've been following our tips in the last 8 weeks, I have this lovely studio garage above my garage apartment. It was an architect studio and I call it the tree house. But today I'm actually in my office and it feels so good to be back here. So I'm in my office and mentally, we've been planning on this for a few weeks. And so I'm just really excited to be here and for all of you to be able to be with us. So I'm in my office and I'm excited.
Let's see, I am in my bedroom at home, which has become my home office. This is not my bedroom. It's a beautiful virtual background of what I thought would be my best bedroom. And I am eager, Ruth. We've been working on this for a little while now, and I'm really eager to have an audience and finally give this away to all of you. So hopefully now you've gotten a chance to reply to the poll. We will be getting back to it later so that you can see yourself within the webinar. And we want to start with our audience, as we just did. We're all here because we have messages that we need to express and we need to get across to an audience. So we want to make sure that we're finding a way to engage our audience. There's been a lot of research for years about the attention span of audiences. It's actually called the forgetting curve. And this is how audiences retain information. But I think it's easier to think about it like this graph you see here. As you can see, the amount of damns you give is inversely related to the length of time you spend speaking. So the longer I talk to you, the less you care. And while the research is still out about how this works in a virtual space, we are pretty sure it looks a little more like this graph here, or maybe even like this graph here. And yet, because we still want to make sure that our messages land with our audience and we need them to care and listen, we thought about what can we learn from other mediums.
So most of you know that Acacia and I have been involved with the TEDx franchise as I founded it in Columbus 11 years ago. And while we know that TED was founded on a few different rules, they hold one very true, which is that you can't speak for more than 18 minutes. And we've done a lot of conversation and research about why that rule was in place, and there's a bunch of different myths, but we really think that at the heart of it, the founder, Richard Selwarman, thought that it doesn't take much longer than 18 minutes to get out your idea. Now, while you've come to this webinar not to give a TED or a TEDx talk, you've really come because you have something to say to an audience. It could be a new business pitch, it could be a board presentation, it could be a small talk to your team. We know that when you move from live to virtual, there is a significant unpacking and repacking that you have to do with your content. So for this particular webinar, we actually designed it specifically for virtual for an hour. It was not a live seminar that we happened to take virtually. So I've presented this picture for you today to imagine that in the old live world, your content might have fit in the cargo in your big suitcase underneath that you checked in. But on this tour, you can only bring a backpack because the attention span of your audience in a virtual setting is about the space in front of you on the plane underneath your feet. So that's our first point about thinking about timing, is that you really have to think about less is more, narrowing the content. There's no real easy way to say, I was going to give an hour presentation and the hour is going to work virtually. Actually, it won't. So we want you to think about what's the most important message? How can I get it out quicker? How can I narrow it? And then in doing so, the second point is how many different kind of flavors or variety of ways can I present that information to you? So in this webinar, you'll see that we're doing things differently about every few minutes. We might be talking to each other, giving you a poll, asking you to do something. We're not showing a video today, but that might be a very common way in which to get people's attention and to use your time. And the last one is, we know that you can't sustain your butt in your seat much longer than 60 minutes. So a total time sitting is definitely a consideration when you're organizing your content, but there's a second consideration, which is how frequently do you need to change things up? We talked about the variety of things that you're doing, but how frequent? And we think that at least every 10 to 15 minutes max, you need to change things up, give people a chance to redirect their attention and guide them through your content so that they're continuously being alert. So timing is a big deal.
I want you to go ahead and look at your screen now. Got this great photo of some daisies. And I want to ask you, what does this photo make you think about? And we're going to launch a poll through Zoom now. So Helmut, could you launch the poll for me? And just pick the answer of what this photo makes you think about. I'll give you a moment to do that. Helmet, when you're ready, you can share the results with us as well.
I can't do the poll because I'm a host, but I would have definitely picked the last one.
The allergies. I think I'm getting allergies as I get older. Okay, I'm dying to know. What are our results? Most people are thinking it means it's about springtime. Look at that. That's a vast majority.
Or
If you
is
want
it
to close,
just because it's the first answer, Acacia, and they were just like, whatever?
it could be. They're moving really fast. If you want to close the poll, there's the close button at the bottom of your poll, so you can close it for yourself. Oh, thank you, Helmet. So while the image actually could have meant any of those things, what actually happened in your brain when you made a story out of it? Well, there's actually a term for it, and it comes out of broadcasting. And this is called a jolt. So jolts are technical events that interrupt the flow of meaning and sound and thought. So when you think about it on a television show, it would be a camera angle shifting, or maybe those screeching violins that come in Psycho, or a cut to commercial. Now, when this term was coined in 1978, there were only about 10 jolts per minute on a network television show, and about 20 during the ads in between. And by the year 2000, that had more than doubled. I personally think that the jolts are even more frequent now. So we have an audience that is accustomed to frequent jolting, making their mind search for meaning. That means you can use it to your advantage to keep your audience focused. And that's our first tip when it comes to visual interest, is use visual jolts. Find a different way to get your audience to keep looking. You could use a jolt that takes people to a specific time and place, like this mixtape. You might choose to use a data visualization when you need to get them to dive deep into some numbers. Or you might choose an image that evokes emotions, like this photo that makes me think about joy. Regardless of what kind of visuals you choose to use, we have a couple of rules that really apply both when you're in the physical world delivering a talk, or also when you are virtual, and that is to really limit the words on the screen. We know that our brain processes language that is written in a different place than where it processes language that we hear. So if you give your audience something to read and something to listen to, they cannot do both at the same time. So do them a favor, make the things to read very easy and quick to read so they can get back to listening to you. You see, even in this webinar, we've done things like highlight the words we want you to pay attention to so that we can draw your attention to what we're hoping you'll look at. If you look at the screen now, you'll see that I really love dogs, so I chose to put a dog image here. But I also referred to the screen, and I would bet probably 95% of you, when I said look at the screen now, looked right at the screen. And that's part of being a guide.
Do you think they were texting, Acacia? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but do you think they were texting instead of looking at the screen? Who knows?
There might have been a couple texters, or maybe good students taking notes, Ruth. There could have been some good students. But bringing your attention back to the screen is definitely, with your words, will always keep bringing the audience back if they do get distracted and there's something you want them to notice. Make sure you point it out. Once you've got some visuals going on so that the audience is looking, then you might be able to start thinking about how can I get the audience interacting.
So I just actually interrupted Acacia. She didn't know I was going to do that. Maybe that woke you up, but Acacia's very good at improv, for those of you who know Acacia. So she was able to rock with me pretty fast. But we want to just talk now about the 3 categories of what we think are important interactive opportunities or moments for you to bring your audience in. We can't see, there's over 200 of you on the screen, on the webinar right now. Thank you all again for coming. The only person I can see is Acacia. So how do we get you to have a conversation with us when we can't see you? The first is we give you a voice. We actually have asked you now to text something. We've asked you to answer a poll. And we've encouraged you to type in questions and actually also chat. So using the tools within the technology, inspire them, give you a voice to communicate with us. The second is to give feedback. So I'm going to ask you now specifically in the chat box, and you can move to the next button, Acacia, on the slide. We're going to ask you, go to your chat box and type in one word, just to give you something to do right now and to show you how easy this is. Not the Q&A, but the chat, and just tell me, who is the one person that inspired you to come today? Was it Acacia? Was it Ruth? Was it your boss? Was it a friend? Was it an email that somebody sent you blindly? Go ahead and let's see how many. Oh my gosh, we have 100.
Go, Ruth.
But within, maybe 10 seconds, I already have over 8. It stops counting, by the way, at 99. I don't even know how many. But within 10 seconds, I've gotten all of you to do something. And this isn't manipulation. This is about keeping you engaged and giving us feedback. So we look forward to downloading those words and who brought you here today. But my favorite part of interaction is getting you to actually play a game. So we're going to stop the main screen and we're going to go over. We told you before to make sure to have a web browser up. So we're going to give you a second to go to a web browser and type in kahoot.it. That's all we need you to do. And then I'm going to give you the next instruction when I pull up my screen. So I'm going to take over. And you should see, oh, sorry, turn this off. It automatically comes on. You will see on the screen now a pin, and I'll say it out loud, 500-2073. 500-2073. We'll give you guys about a minute to populate. My favorite are the nicknames. Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, look at that. We've already got
Dragonfly,
almost 100 players.
Awesome Pettit, Chi-Town. That must be Jessica. Hi, Jessica. Let's see if we can break Kahoot today.
Yeah, this is incredible.
All right. So we didn't expect to get everyone. Oh, we'll keep waiting. I got a coffee snob. I wonder who that is. Is that you, Acacia?
That's not me, but I am one.
For those of you who don't know, I don't drink coffee, and Acacia drinks it every 4 or 5 hours. So we balance out. All right. Woohoo! Rubber ducky. That's a good one. All right.
All right.
I think we're slowing down. I'm going to go ahead. So for those of you who don't know what Kahoot is used in all sorts of different venues and institutions. I learned it through school. Actually, the college counselors at my kids' school use it to demystify what we think might be going on. I've used it with a client before, and we're going to use it here just to have some fun and to test some knowledge. So let's go ahead and we're going to get started. So the questions are going to come up and you're going to answer one of 4, maybe one of 3. First one, how long was our max attention span when watching an online presentation? Max attention span.
Here they go.
Congratulations. So I want to also tell you that it does matter how fast you answer. So even if you got it right in the leaderboard, which I'm going to show next, well, let me tell you this. It is not incorrect, the 15 minutes. I said we need to keep things changing up every 15 minutes. The question was really about how long can you sit on your butt watching a presentation. I didn't say it so cursely there, but our max attention span is 60 minutes total, but in 15-minute increments where you need to keep changing things up. Let's see who's in the leaderboard. See, now we get to actually see who is winning.
Go HD.
HD, whoever you are, you go. All right, let's go to question number 2. What is officially called When you wake up someone's brain, hopefully everybody gets this because Acacia was very good. Mm-hmm.
Ooh, quick answers this time. Trigger fingers. Yes.
Acacia did well in explaining what the jolt was, which is truly the scientific term of sort of interrupting yourself to make you look for meaning, which is what we're trying to do here today. So congratulations. Let's see who's in the lead. Let's see if HD, sorry, HD, you're down to 3.
Allie.
Let's go to the next one. Why did TED pick the 18-minute limit for their talks? Acacia, you'd probably answer number 4. Coffee break.
I like a longer coffee break than that, Ruth. All right.
So we believe that that is the true reason. However, it was a myth for a long time, and it still might be, that he decided that the length of a sitcom, the content in a sitcom, is actually about 18 minutes when you take out the commercials. So it's not an incorrect answer, but the one we were looking for was the how long. Allie is in the lead. HD, you better get your fast fingers back. Okay, number 4, what's the main reason for needing shorter content for meetings on virtual platforms? The main reason. Only 3 answers here.
This one's tricky.
I don't know if we talked enough about energy. So this is a really good example, everyone, of where we weren't exactly explicit in telling you about energy in the beginning. We're going to get to it a little bit later, but definitely there are more distractions at your desk. But one of the reasons, the main reasons, and we now know, and the next time we need to make sure that's clearer at the top, is that it just takes more energy to pay attention to us, to watch our movements. Our sound is often stuttered, and we're just more exhausted. I don't know how many of you have taken naps at 4 o'clock in the last 8 weeks, but I'm number 1 on the after a day long of Zoom. So, all right, last question, and let's see who's, oh geez, Edo is in the lead. Way to go, Ed. All right, what's the one thing you never want to do on a virtual call?
If you watched our preview videos, you've got a hint already.
So maybe all of these things are true for sure. And I actually was going to challenge Acacia at the beginning of this webinar to see how many ums we said through it, because we're really trying. We're going to talk about ums in a second. But the one thing you so never want to do is eat. It's horrible. You never want to see food coming out of someone's mouth. All right, let's see who won. I'll be pretty surprised if we got 3. We have a leaderboard of 3. Number 3 is Allie. Congratulations. There will be prizes afterwards.
Eduardo.
And number 1 is K2. Whoever K2 is, let's give you a round of applause. Woo-hoo! So close, so close.
Well done, everyone.
Let me find my, maybe I need to stop. There we go. All right. Back to us. Hey, guys, thank you so much. That was a lot of fun. Hopefully you, and you know, good job to the top 3 finishers. There will be prizes afterwards. We'll send you a note as to where to find them. Mm-hmm. All right, Acacia, so we have successfully played a game. What are we doing now?
So now we just want to recap where we've been for this section, because we're going to take a quick Q&A break. This section is all about audience attention and engagement. So the 3 things to remember: consider the timing. How are you going to pack those bags so they fit under the seat in front of you? How are you going to keep people interested visually by using jolts and different types of imagery? And then how can you make the audience actually get involved and interact with the presentation? So speaking of interaction, we're going to take our first pause break for some Q&A. So if you have a question right now, make sure to type it in the Q&A. But I'm going to ask Helmut, I think there were some questions already. So Helmut, what questions do we have popping up at the moment?
I've got him up, Acacia. So, okay, Helmut, we actually want to give Helmut a little voice here to elevate a question. We'll talk about the producer in a second, but okay, Helmut, what question should we answer first?
The two most frequent questions right now are, do you have any other game apps that you would recommend?
So there are a few, so we've learned a lot from watching how education has moved online. There are a few extras that we know work really well. Anything in Quizlet actually is a great game. You may have seen kids use it for like your new fashioned flashcards, but there's also Quizlet Live, which is a very fun way to gamify knowledge. What we'll do is put it in the follow-up notes to everybody, a few of the links to other games. And I do see that Krista's asked, is Kahoot a free platform? Indeed, it's free. And I will tell you, it's incredibly user-friendly, very easy to program. And I've used it for a variety of different reasons, just to keep a diverse group of people interested in a common subject, to test knowledge, or for us here to have fun. So what else we got, Helmut?
Sarah Folter asked a great one. How do you make the visual jewels relevant to the presentation material?
Good one. Acacia, do you want to take this one?
I was answering a couple of the other questions since we had so many. So if you want to handle it, Ruth, I'm going to keep typing answers for other people.
Oh, so how do you make the visual jolts relevant to the presentation material? Okay, so in this particular presentation, we mapped out our end-to-end content, organized it in 3 buckets, and then said, what are times and places and ways that we could use polls, gamification, change the presenter from Acacia to myself. So you're working within the existing content that you have. You don't have to create anything too special. One of the visual jolts that we recommend is making sure that you actually tell people to look at the screen when you have something changed on the screen. So we can go more into that, Sarah, offline if you want to talk about it. Let's see. Can you enable Zoom webinars so you can actually see your audience? No, you cannot. Unfortunately, so webinar is different than Zoom rooms. Zoom rooms only allow you to have 100 at a time. And when you have more than 100, you have to move to webinar. So we're at more than 100, so we're in a webinar, which makes this whole thing very difficult for professional speakers and people who are presenting to large audiences. They actually will probably never see their audience, which is unfortunate. So let's try to do 2 more.
There's a good one that I want to highlight, Ruth, that came up a couple of different times. People asking about sitting or standing, and I'm going to just address that rather than type it multiple times. So you'll see Ruth and I chose different styles for you today. So Ruth is doing a stand-up style, which is great when you want to be able to have kind of a little bit of that movement energy. So I think if you're thinking about a presentation in which you would have been having that charismatic movement anyway, you may want to stand. Sitting is also perfectly good as well. We're going to talk a little bit later about your setup when you're sitting so that you can have a great setup to do that. It just depends on your audience and depends on your personal style.
Is the producer managing all screen changes, or is Ruth and Acacia? Actually, Acacia is managing the screen changes since the beginning of the webinar. Helmut managed the ones before we got on. I shared my screen for the Kahoot since I was in charge of the Kahoot. So we can share the responsibility, but we have one person that's really managing the slide changes. So we will make sure that Helmut answers the rest of the questions in here. Pros and cons.
We will also stay afterwards. So we'll stay afterwards to continue answering questions and answer them in the chat as well if you have to hop off. But we should move.
I do actually want to answer one more in here that will be hard for Helmut to answer. So what's your advice for a webinar host where the featured speaker is great content but a boring presentation? Well, I'm not so sure who you want to give advice to or who's going to take your feedback, Mr. Cherry, who asked this question. But I would recommend that they go back to the drawing board and try again. The problem is if you are didactic and lecturing inside a virtual setting, you're setting yourself up to lose the audience, number one. If you're trying a few tools, feedback, polls, changing up the jolts, you're likely going to keep their attention more. But the point that we're trying to make in this webinar is that it is no longer okay just to get up and drone on, because people have so many distractions around them to let them take them off somewhere else. Okay.
So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment and ask for Helmut's help, because you all sent us something through Poll Anywhere, Everywhere, and people were asking why Poll Everywhere and then a poll within Zoom. Well, we wanted to show you one of the features of Poll Everywhere, which is we got to make a little word cloud that shared where you all are, both physically and mentally. So Helmut, do you have that ready to go for us?
And while that's coming up, Poll Everywhere has a subscription fee to it and is actually has different levels where you can't do this in Zoom. And they have lots more robust kinds of polls. And we'll talk about one other option in a second. So everyone's
when you look at this, you see that like most people are home. We could probably have guessed that. A lot of people in Columbus. I know I see some busy. Oh, someone is bored. I hope we've changed that. I really do.
We have Connecticut represented. I know that I saw Chicago. We've got Detroit, Minneapolis.
I hope that you see yourself somewhere in
Florida.
Here. Yeah. Okay, we're going to go back to the presentation now, get back to content, and switch it up again. I'm going to share my screen.
And actually one more point. There's one other app that we're working with a different client on called Slido, and we'll put these in the follow-up notes. It's called Slido, and we haven't used it yet, but we understand they have better integration within Zoom. So Zoom polls are kind of flat, but Slido and Poll Everywhere have more dynamic ones that give you different you can sort of bar charts and graphs and things from the polls for Molly who wanted to know the difference. All right, we're going to talk about your virtual environment and self now. I love this quote from Daniel Kahneman, who wrote the book Thinking Fast and Slow. What we're trying to say here is that audiences don't want to work hard. They actually don't want to think much. And so when you make them think and make them work hard, you're actually causing them to spend more energy. And we've already talked about how virtual settings cause a lot more energy drain. So one of the things we want to make sure you have as a table stake is that you don't present any distractions at all to your audience to then being able to think and work towards the content that you're presenting. So we have a little demonstration through poll. Acacia's going to bring her screen back, and we want you on this poll to answer what distracts you most. You can't answer more than one thing. This might drive some of the scientific inquiry people out there a little crazy, but go ahead and answer what's driving you most distracted. You can answer anything. Top 3, all of them. We don't get the Kahoot music though. I kind of miss that. I want you to know that Acacia and I both put on makeup today, so she shouldn't look too tired.
I put it on for the first time in weeks.
All right, I think we're almost done. We've got if I get to 70%, that's a good representative sample. Come on, just a few more, 2 more percent. There we go. Okay, let's go and end the poll. Thank you, Helmut. Oh my gosh. So, I would not disagree with you all. Stop shaking, Acacia. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Sorry, swivel chair, sorry.
So let's go through. Thank you all for observing exactly the things that Acacia's doing wrong so we can take the poll down, and let's just walk through them real quickly. All right, so Acacia, first, thanks for not moving. If you guys all remember when you're in a live setting, if you're doing this, like look at how I'm moving. If you're doing this, we like to say that's not dissimilar from rocking a baby. You're looking for comfort. You're looking for something to calm your inner proprioceptive system down. So we do not recommend swivel chairs. Number 2, Acacia,
Yeah.
bring your attention to your camera, please.
Hello.
All right. So everybody, this is a participation thing. I can't tell if you're doing it or not. Take your finger, and Acacia, I need you to do the same. And I want you to actually put your finger on your camera. Okay, pull it back. That's where you should be looking. So can you center yourself up now, Acacia, even though you're looking at your camera, you're not really good in the, and if you don't fix your background, we're all gonna start to get a little seasick. So
Let me fix it.
Acacia's using the old green screen. She's using a physical green screen.
Here, let me get the framing better. I'm going to lift my computer for you so I can get rid of the ceiling.
So my computer is actually sitting on a storage box in my office on a tall table. For most of you know, I'm tall, so I had to really get it high. All right, you're doing great, but like you look like you're in the sea. So let's get your Zoom screen back on. She's using a virtual green screen backdrop.
It is on. You know what the problem is with it? It's because I'm too dark.
Oh, whoops. So if you talk to any video editor, the most important thing about using a green screen is that the screen is actually lit, because it's actually a trick that the camera is doing. The green screen has been told to ignore the color green. And when it's lit, it's able to know what it is and actually extract it from the image. That's what a green screen technology is. So Acacia, we fixed a lot of things. You're not seeing the ceiling. We've got you framed up. You're not moving. You're not eating. Thank you. So let's break these 2 things down. First, we worked on her environment, exactly what was going on with her physical space, the background. She needs front lighting, not backlighting, and is she framed up? I mean, really, is it what's worse than when I was on a webinar or a call last night and somebody looked this way the entire time and you just want to say, can you please look at me? Please look at me. So the next one is about your physical self, back to that eye contact. Am I conveying good energy? And then bring it back. Thank you. Acacia was demonstrating the slouch, or you could do the mansplaining, like,
Yeah.
And then lastly, while we are not wearing clothing that distracts, Acacia, show us something that might distract. And actually, this is a tip for everyone to remember. If you're a man, don't wear a tie with small patterns. If you're a woman, wearing small checks or things that might shimmy. That's actually pretty good, or something that's even smaller that moves in the screen. So those are your image and environment things. And again, like I said in the beginning, it's like table stakes. These are things now that we can listen and enjoy what Acacia has to say without being distracted. By the way, I have to just tell you, yesterday I found on Twitter, I think it's called Room Raider, ROOMRATER. It's a Twitter feed that started a few weeks ago. They grab screenshots of people on TV and rate their Zoom room backdrops on a scale of 1 to 10. And I have to tell you, it's pretty funny, like some of the comments that they're making. So if you really, I'm not inviting you to go to Twitter right now, but I'm saying that if you really want to get a good laugh, you can go there. So in the playbook, Acacia, what do we have?
So in the playbook, if you haven't already downloaded it, it's free. It's there for you as a resource that you can have in a physical format if you like. We have great instructions there about how to get a great environment set up for you. Whether you choose to use a backdrop or not, a lot of the lighting and the camera tips there are really great. So once you have everything set up physically, we want to talk about your voice, because as Ruth was talking about, you want to make it easy for people to listen to you, and your voice is amplified. So I like to break the voice down into 3 parts here. The first is the most important, which is, are you actually understandable? Now, of course, technology has something to do with this, and you want to make sure that your microphone is good so that people can hear you. But another thing that people don't think about is the need for pauses. So if you just speak rapidly at people and you never take a breath to breathe and you keep going and you keep going, it's like a fire hose of information. And that can be really difficult for an audience to listen to. Pauses are very important, especially virtually. We actually have helped with a lot of people doing videos recently, and then we caption the videos afterwards. And there are wonderful captioning services available online. And we started to notice that some speakers, it would catch 90% of their words in the automatic AI captioning. Some people were as low as 20%. And when we listened back, it wasn't usually having to do with their accents or perhaps like anything weird with their speech. The difference was the pausing. The people who paused, even AI could make out their words. So really adding in those pauses with breath is very important for understandability. The second level of voice is my voice professional? Now, again, these tips are the same tips we might give when you're speaking in person, but virtually they become magnified. So the first, we're going to give you 3 things to watch for. And if you're worried you have them, try recording yourself to check. The first is the or the Now, I'm going to come clean that I am a recovering ummer. So I have great empathy for saying and And I have successfully gotten rid of my ums and uhs, which can be really, really distracting for people. So Ruth, you're gonna help, let me help you get rid of your ums. Let's pretend you have the ums, and everyone, you can do this if you like at home as well. So I want you to make the sound or just say it a couple times, and I want you to pay attention. Where do you feel it in your body when you say it, when you start it?
Everyone do it with me.
Where do you feel it, Ruth?
Right here,
Yeah.
the throat, not in the chest, not in the gut, but right here in the throat.
Right in the throat, right. Now, why don't you try this a second way? Right before you say the word, I want you to stop yourself. So it's like, what does that feel like?
Feels like I'm putting the brakes on my throat.
Yeah. If you're trying this at home, it may feel like you're choking a little bit or catching your breath in some way. That is because in order to make the sound, you have to do what's called a glottal stop. And a glottal stop literally means you are stopping the air to make the sound. So I bet you can guess what the solution is. We need to start the air. We need to breathe in. So Ruth, final payoff here. Try to say as you breathe in, or right after you've breathed in. Can you do it?
Nope.
Yeah, it comes out more as a sigh.
Try to take a deep breath and say or at the same time.
It comes out more as a sigh.
So essentially a breath or a pause is the anecdote.
Yes, it will take practice. We once coached a CEO who we recorded him and in about 45 seconds of speaking, he had 20 ums, and he was mortified because as the leader of his organization, he did not want to sound like that. So he paid his daughter to be his accountability buddy. He paid her $1 per and that got rid of his ums pretty quick because he didn't want to keep paying his daughter. So find a partner if you are trying to get better at those.
Great.
The second thing to pay attention to is vocal uplift. This is when I talk to you and I want to tell you about the voice, and that I really love talking to people about their voices because I think it's really important how we use our voices, and you start to wonder, am I really that sure of what I'm talking about?
It's killing me.
So this vocal uplift is something to pay attention to, bringing your words down at the end of most of your sentences.
Unless you're from Canada, right? And then A?
Yes, then add an A to everything. And then lastly is vocal fry. This is where I'm talking to you and my voice kind of peters out a little bit and you get this like raspiness going on at the end, or sometimes for some people all the time. Now this actually has a lot to do with the energy of your voice, and what it conveys to your listener when they hear it is maybe they think you're tired, they might think you're nervous, or they might just think you don't care. And if you're a leader in an organization, the last thing you want is for people to think that you don't care. So those are the things to pay attention to with the professional side of your voice. The highest side of using your voice is to make it influential. How can you have a vocal quality that actually influences your audience to maybe do something that you want them to do? And while this might sound different for different people's voices, I'm going to demonstrate what they sound like with my voice and some ways that you can do this to make your voice influential. So the first style, we'll call them characters. We're going to do the first style, and Ruth's going to walk me through them to demo.
All right, first one of 4 is the friend. Acacia, tell us what it sounds like to be a friend.
So the friend voice is really warm. There's a lot of rapport in there. You're trying to generate that feeling between people that you really get along and that you care about them. This is great to use at the beginning of meetings. You hear me using it a lot when I'm teaching because I want you to know that I care about you. This is opposed to a monotone. So I really want you to know that I care about you and that I really care about this message, and I hope that you take it away. You don't feel the same rapport.
Let me wake up because that was really hard. Let's get you moving on to the next one. Ready? Number 2, be a visionary for me. I'm trying to evoke change. A lot of you actually have to do this in your work, is tell me where I'm headed. How can I demonstrate that through my vocal quality?
So our plan to get through this time together is that we're going to find new ways to do things. We're going to take what we already know and we're going to transform it into something that we can do now. We know that we're going to get through this together. So you can hear that the voice generally has a little bit more of an uplifted quality, and the sentences are definitive. So you sound very sure of what you're saying.
So what if I wanted to brainstorm with you or sort of romanticize about something, and I'm trying to get my team to actually participate with me? What sort of vocal quality would I want then?
So then I might consider slowing down a little into the wizard and thinking about, how might we approach the changes we're trying to implement? What could be the best way to do that? This tone can almost be conspiratorial as well. Like, I don't know, what do you think? I bet we can do it. This is as opposed to saying, so how should we implement these strategies? When you use a very flat tone or the next tone we're talking about, when you're trying to invite brainstorming, you actually can shut people's brains down for a moment and make them go into a little bit of a stress response, making it harder to get brainstorming started.
And the last one is the warrior. I need to rally you to a conclusion, to an action.
I know that you're going to take these tips that we've given today and you're going to find a way to implement them for yourself. Some will work great for you, and then some you might be able to leave at the wayside. But we know that if you take a few of these tips and use them, then you will have more success with your messages as you communicate them virtually. So the warrior has a lower pitch, as you heard, and is very direct and straightforward and can inspire someone to take up the reins and take action.
Thank you, Acacia, for bringing your best self and the vocal qualities that are working. You guys will all hear these on your calls, and we're going to wrap it up here on the vocal checklist. So this is the second chapter. We're taking a little break here. You can see about your environment, your image, and your voice are a part of your virtual self. I will tell you, Acacia, I just recognized we forgot a point, and you just did it.
They might not have seen me because I was not talking.
But I was actually on a webinar the other day, and the guy, because this isn't something women do, spent most of his time, we call this petting. Don't touch your face, your hair, don't play with this space up here when you're speaking. It's because it is very distracting. So I'll add that to the next round. But thank you for your attention. We're going to take a 30-second break. Everybody get up off your seat.
Yeah, we're going to take a 30-second dance break here. Your cameras are off. No one can see you right now. Dance standing up, dance in your chair, but let's get a little bit of movement because we're in the final stretch. We've got 9 minutes left before the final Q&A that you can stay Oh, I could watch you dance all day, right, Ruth?
No, I am so white and I have no beat. So thank you all for not completely turning off your screens during that.
Let's talk about technology, just to bring us home.
All right, so on this, we've got 3 key points. This won't take very long. The first one, we're back on the bus. We're guiding you through now, we're not gonna actually do a full round on how to use Zoom. There's lots of tutorials out there, but there are 3 things that we think are imperative as you use technology. So the first one is the role of what we call the producer. Helmet, you've heard his voice, his video is not enabled. This could be in a classroom setting, it could be a student helping you to monitor the Q&A or watching your time. It could be a host that's actually doing the same thing or watching the chat, but somebody who is paying attention to everything else while you're delivering your content. You do not want to be stopping your content and saying, uh-oh, somebody can't get on. Let me stop what I'm saying and help troubleshoot them. So you always want to make sure you've got somebody with you, whatever you call it, helping you in that capacity, right? I'm getting my breath back from my dance moves. The second is the rehearsal. We actually have been through this now, I think 3 or 4 times, and even half an hour before we got on today, we had 2 technical glitches that we had a little white face, like, holy crap, is this gonna work? Acacia's computer decided to update at 12:30. We can't recommend running through things enough. Even if it's just a short 15-minute board presentation, that can make a big difference. Anything that has any consequence to it, you definitely want to make sure you're comfortable with the technology, who's moving the slides, how the producer is communicating with you, and you can get all that taken care of in the rehearsal. And the last one, I'll let Acacia do.
So we want to talk about something that happened earlier in this pandemic. So on April 26th, there was the 90th birthday celebration of Stephen Sondheim. Now, if you are not a musical theater buff, Stephen Sondheim is the most beloved musical Broadway composer of all time. And every time he has a birthday that ends in 5 or 0, they throw a big party with huge celebrities performing. So because of the pandemic, this was going to be done virtually. And they had amazing stars. You can see Meryl Streep was a part of it, Christine Baranski, Audra McDonald, tons of people, Mandy Patinkin. And the event was supposed to begin at 8 o'clock that Sunday. 8 o'clock rolls around, no start. 8:30, finally they get it moving. They get everything going. And there's a big, beautiful opening piano number that someone plays. They go to the host, who was the only live part of the event. The host starts speaking and no one can hear him. And they couldn't figure it out. And so they take it down, and eventually at 9 p.m. they came back and started. They never figured out how to get the host to come back in. So they lost that entire part that they'd planned. Now, this is a case where it was the one thing they hadn't pre-recorded and they didn't have a backup plan. This is why we think it is important when you are having something that is very consequential. So maybe you have a pitch and the people that are responsible to listen to the pitch are only available at that time. You want to get it right? Have a recording available in case something goes wrong, like your internet goes out or the sound doesn't work. You want to be prepared. We helped a team that they were working on a $5 billion, I think, RFP. Is that right, Ruth? Mm-hmm. That they needed to submit at this time virtually for the first time ever. And you better believe that we went the pre-recording route because you don't want things to go wrong when the stakes are really high. One thing you can do if you still want to be delivering live is just record that rehearsal that came from tip number 2 and have that ready to go. If things go haywire, you can always send out the recording so that your audience isn't left wondering and disappointed.
And I'll just add that we're working with a conference that has 350 speakers. Only 90 of them are going to be presenting live, but they will actually pre-record them as a backup, and everyone else's presentations will be seen on demand recorded. So that's actually where the trend is headed. So get familiar with these. This is an example in the setup. I might be taking your note, but the basic things that you might need, if it's, you've got a green screen and a light and a halo and a tripod, to make sure that you've got this whole setup here might cost you $150 to make sure if you're recording in your own home that you've got the right sound and audio and lights to make you look and sound good. So
And
yes.
and Ruth, we're running perfectly on time because this is just the recap that we're going to send out to all of you. So you will get this along with the recording today. We wanted to make sure that you know we can put all that together. We're going to stick around for some Q&A, but Ruth, I'll leave it to you to bring us home.
So we have taken you on a little tour today. You were at the top of the bus. Thank you for sticking with us on the tour of being a virtual speaker. And we really do mean this, that we want you to take these tips and tools, expand upon them. You can see where any one of these topics can go pretty deep, and we're happy to stay around and answer. But our real mission here is to make sure that your messages and your ideas for business are winning. And through the virtual platform, we've got to really make a shift from what we used to do live to here. And we hope that this last hour has been worthy of your time and attention and engagement to win those ideas ultimately for you. So with 2 minutes to spare, we're going to say thank you very much and close out the formal part of the presentation. And then we're going to shift into the open Q&A, and we will say that you can ask us anything. It doesn't have to be something we address here. You know that we've been speaker coaches for a long time, and happy to take this time to meet you where you are and what needs you have. So thank you, Acacia and Helmet, for being such amazing partners, and our partner Kim, who's a panelist today out there, or an attendee, and everyone that showed up. So this has been great fun. Thank you.
Thank you all. We're going to move into the